I believe shame is the most corrosive thing that people carry inside of them. And if we do not have a way to clear the shame, if we are not being told as soon as we come into any type of mistake, whether you're an addict or you're not, that you are not a bad person, even if you made a bad choice, we are in danger. We are in danger. Addicts already feel so ashamed. And honestly, people do. The equivalent of saying, I wish I hadn't done this.
Don't need you. Tell me what I can and can't do. I'm in charge of what I feel. It's just a game I play for fun, but I already...
Hi, my name is Amie. Like, comment, and subscribe to Lux Media Studios. They are awesome.
Hey everyone, welcome to Loving Your Life, Be Authentically You with me, Amie. I am so excited to have you here today. And if you liked the music that you heard at the beginning, that's my daughter, True Istina, TRUE_ISTINA.music official on Instagram, as well as True Istina on all the other platforms. Please go check her out and show her some love. She's got some exciting things coming up very, very soon. And also, if you are in need of some happiness because you're feeling a little bit down, I can help you. Check out thetruehappiness.com where you can book your free session and we can talk about what I can do to help you. I'd love to help you become internally happy. It's all about the internal happiness and instead of what's on the outside that matters. But without further ado, I am so excited to have my wonderful guest on. This is Dr. Samantha Harte. She is a physical therapist, author, performing artist, podcast host, and sober mom of two. She is on the May 2024 cover of New York Lifestyle magazine and has been featured in People magazine, Time magazine, and Best Life and the New York Post for her expertise on the intersection of mind, body, health, and wellness. Her self-help memoir, Breaking the Circuit, How to Rewire Your Mind for Hope, Resilience, and Joy in the Face of Trauma, is set to release on June 10th. The book is a raw and honest depiction of Samantha's life, which has had its fair share of trauma, loss, and heartbreak. After more than a decade in recovery, she decided to reimagine the 12 steps so they become modern, trauma-informed, and universally applicable to addicts and non-addicts alike. She hopes to elevate the fitness and wellness space with an authentic combination of expertise, vulnerability, and lived sober experience. Hello, welcome.
Hi. Wow. It's really cool to hear my bio read back to me. Thank you for that intro.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It is so awesome. I remember meeting you the first time at Rafi's Lounge and hearing your story and hearing how you were talking about the 12 steps and how you are making it very easy and applicable for people in the world because it gets so confusing and it gets too much in your head. That's kind of what you were sharing with me, right?
Yes. It's a lot of things. I think confusing is a great starting point. When I first read the steps on the wall, I really wasn't ready to be in recovery, period. And the language of them was so religious sounding and very patriarchal that I felt like they butted up against, of course, I didn't know this at the time, but all of my deeply ingrained childhood beliefs that kept me safe.
Okay. So would you like to expand on that? What do you mean exactly?
So if anybody is familiar with the 12 steps or knows somebody who's been like, oh yeah, no, those meetings are not for me. Or if you're the listener and that's you, I get it. And I felt the exact same way. And I think the big reason for that initial reaction is that the word God is all over the steps. And even though they are trying to say it's a God of your own understanding, which by the way, it is, it's still so heavily baked in a religious undertone that if you grew up in a house with a punishing God, I didn't, but a lot of people come to recovery did. You're automatically triggered by the word God when you enter. Or somebody like me If you grew up in a house where there's no such thing as God, and God is for the weak and the stupid, and the only person you can count on is yourself, and you're not at rock bottom, which I wasn't yet, then you're kind of like, God. If I believe in God, that dismantles everything I was taught that keeps me safe in the world, which is counting on myself. So, no, thank you. I don't need you or your steps or your religious suffocation. I'll just sit in the back with my arms crossed. Thank you very much.
Wow. And do it yourself and just try to do whatever you want to do yourself because, like you said, you didn't hit rock bottom yet.
Correct.
So just kind of going through it in the way that you want to do so you're safe.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the thing is, I know this now, sitting in the seat of someone who's 15 years sober and who's done so much work on herself. At the time, I didn't know why I was holding on to control of people, places, and things at all costs, right? I just knew that I felt like I had to. And I understand all this stuff now because, and my passion for writing the book that I've written, in part, there's many pieces to why I wrote it, is that in recovery, my resistance to working the steps would be considered to more old school perceptives that I am being stubborn, that I am being difficult, that I'm in my ego, that my self-will has, what they say, run riot. And it's so much deeper than just being in my ego and going, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine coming from a home where you have a punishing God and you've got all kinds of trauma, and ultimately you find drugs and alcohol and they're your solution to your problem. And then of course it becomes the problem itself. So this thing that was hurting you, you're not supposed to believe in, but when you don't want to believe in it because you're scared and traumatized, you're being told that you're just being ego-based and you need to shut up and get it together. And it's like, well, no, actually, I'm just operating in a pattern in my nervous system that has been deeply ingrained. And if I could be spoken to in a way that was more compassionate and trauma informed of where I came from, I might have a better shot of not relapsing and not dying. So, I think about how sick I was in recovery for 5 years. And what I mean by that is I was physically abstinent for the first 5 years of my sobriety, but I was spiritually bankrupt, holding on to these old ideas, but I felt like I had to. And that's the really ironic thing about trying to recover from something that could potentially kill you, is that there's no external thing that can force you to be ready. And for me, it's a combination of operating in a subconscious pattern for so long until the pain of living that way became so great that I got zapped out of it. And what I mean by that is I got zapped out and I went, I literally cannot live this way anymore. I was in a marriage, it was falling apart. I was obsessively trying to fix it and save it into complete exhaustion and failure and to the brink of insanity. There are a lot of addicts that run like that hold on to their old ideas, their childhood patterns, and it drives them mad. So they end up relapsing and they end up dying before they hit that bottom. I believe the only reason I did not die is because my first sponsor, who saved my life after my first year sober, relapsed and committed suicide, which just knocked the absolute life out of me. And I was like, if I touch this shit again, I'm dead. And if I believe in God, I'm not safe. So I just ran for 5 years into all the old programs and patterns that I had been accustomed to until they absolutely didn't work. And so I was at the precipice of, I think, what it is required for real change. I was in enough pain. And the pain I was in was greater than the fear I had to try something new. And the right person stepped into my life at the right time and said, what if we do these steps on your marriage? What if we stop talking about drugs and alcohol and we actually make them apply to the crisis that you're in? And what a wonderful idea that was. That is when my life began to change.
Interesting. So you used it for your marriage, not for the drugs and alcohol and all of that. That's interesting because I always think of the 12 steps as that. Because when I read your bio, I saw that and I'm thinking, and I remember you telling me that it's also based on not necessarily addicts and things of that nature, but it also can be based for other things with the 12 steps. And I never put the two together. So how do you go about changing the steps to help it with your marriage and your life instead of the addictions?
Believing Before Seeing, a new bestseller by Candace Barr. Order your copy today.
Okay. I'm going to give an example from my life, and then I'm going to ask you, and we'll do a real time. We'll pick one step, not all 12 steps.
Okay.
We'll do a real life scenario. And by the way, there are tons of these real life scenarios in the book. So I can just create a bridge between myself and the reader and not just talk about my particular story and how I revamped the language in that particular crisis that I was in, because then there's still this thing about the reader being like, well, that's really extreme. That's not my story. I mean, we're talking about things as simple as being stuck in traffic when you're an early bird and now you're going to be late, all the way to losing someone you love, right? And everything in between that life can throw at us. So for me, for example, step one, right, it says I'm powerless over alcohol and my life has become unmanageable. Or whatever it is, like I'm powerless over cocaine, whatever the substance is, that's what you say. And the reason I think that step one is in that place is so that you are really admitting to yourself, I have lost control of this thing. Because without doing that, if you still think you can control it, you're probably going to still drink and use a little bit. So I get why they put that step at the front, right? But so for my marriage, it was, I'm powerless over my marriage. In particular, I'm powerless over the fact that it's falling apart, that my husband seems to be emotionally withdrawn. And when I ask him what's going on, he doesn't really answer. I'm powerless over whether or not he's actually cheating on me. I'm powerless over the insanity I feel when I try to beg him to go to therapy or forgive me. And the list goes on and on. And when I try to exert power over those things that I am powerless over, my life becomes unmanageable in the following ways. I have no peace. I have no access to real power, as you said in the beginning, internal power. I have zero sense of self-worth. And I'm stuck in a loop where every day I'm just obsessing and going outside of myself to try and figure out what I can say or do to make him love me again. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So then let's take something in your life. What's something you really wish you could control, but you can't? Or that you think you can control? Maybe.
But I can't.
And maybe you can.
I honestly don't know if I can, but my stage 4 cancer, I don't know I can't control it. I have to allow it. I am powerless over it. Yes, I can think everything good and I can do the things I need to do, but I don't know what's going to happen from day to day. And so just literally giving that up, because you're right. I was in that loop. So what's going to happen? And I have to do this and I got to make sure I'm doing that and and call it, just, it was on and it was affecting me emotionally to a point where that's when you stop your life. That's when you get stuck in life, is when you have to control it. And yes, in relationships, and I was divorced. So I understand what you're saying too on that spectrum. I do. And you cannot make anyone happy no matter how hard you try. You cannot, and they can't make you happy either. So it goes both ways, but you have to release that power. And it makes me want to cry, actually, Samantha, because it's so true. And once you release that, you feel that freedom.
Exactly.
You finally feel free because we can't control it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So can you imagine going through having a template for anything that happens in life, not a template that solves your problem, but a template that gives you a pathway through the pain, right? A template that helps you take your heartbreak and turn it into hope, or your pain and turn it into power.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I did not get that kind of template growing up. Definitely not in my house, definitely not in the New York City public school system. So, for me, this sort of thing about recovery being confined to the rooms of addicts and people who are deep in suffering, number one, seems crazy to me when the whole world is suffering and that the language hasn't been updated when we have so much information about addiction and childhood trauma, when we have so much information about the psychology of addiction, the changes in the brain about addiction, how the reward centers get strengthened and the decision-making centers get weakened. None of that language is anywhere in the steps. And I really believe that shame, I believe it because I know it, and I believe it because I've seen it kill people I love. I believe shame is the most corrosive thing that people carry inside of them. And if we do not have a way to clear the shame, if we are not being told as soon as we come into any type of mistake, whether you're an addict or you're not, that you are not a bad person, even if you made a bad choice, we are in danger. We are in danger. Addicts already feel so ashamed. And honestly, people do.
We all do.
The equivalent of saying, I wish I hadn't done this.
Yes.
I kind of regret that. Is saying, I am ashamed of that. I feel like I am stamped with what I've done.
Yeah.
And that shame dictates how we see the world and the choices that we make and what we feel we deserve.
Right.
So coming from a compassionate place that is backed by what we now understand is the most helpful is like a no-brainer to me. And I am going to piss people off who are old school, traditional AA thumpers, and I don't care.
Good. Good for you, because what you're telling me now, you see me, I'm like crying. Literally, you're hitting my heart right now. And so that is, you're going to affect so many people in such a positive way, because this is exactly what we need. This is 100% because it is for everybody. I've seen people go through shame. I've worked with treatment centers. I've worked with people, even in my own relationships, and have seen this. And it can break people down. And they can lose themselves so much. And it breaks my heart. So to have this and have your book and have what you're saying in this easy to follow steps and truth is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. I mean, I commend you so much. Look at this. Look at this. I'm crying. I commend you so much, Samantha.
Thank you. I mean, God, it's funny because you know that I love to sing and perform, right? So as a girl, I felt like whatever this big thing that I want to do in the world was entertainment. And it's not that I don't want that to be a part of everything I'm about to go out and do in the world.
Right.
But in this process of starting to write and then what it has become, not only have I realized that my message is not just a mission, it's a movement, but I have finally everything's clicked into place. And what I mean by that is there's no more wrestling of my head and my heart and my gut. I am so clear that this is my purpose. This is the big thing that I am meant to do in the world. I just had no idea what it was going to take to get here.
Wow. Stepping into your true authenticity and loving your life and being present and being here. And we had to go through all of that stuff in order to get there.
We sure did.
Right? I mean, like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy for you. I've seen you perform, I've seen you sing, and I'm so happy for you. And dance.
I
Taught
know.
Grace how to dance. True, Stina.
Oh my God, I know.
So I'm really happy for you. I think it is so beautiful. Like I said, the message you're spreading. And I have already friends I'm telling about your book. And you said it's out June 10th. Is that correct?
It is. That's the official publication date. It is not changing. And at the moment, you can order it on Amazon. You can pre-order.
Okay.
And I also have all these really cool assets on my website, which is drsamanthaharte.com. So if you wanted to sort of create a full mind, body wellness package for yourself, you can get the book and then any number of digital assets on top of it, like pre-recorded workouts, meditation videos, a band, all the juicy stuff, an e-recipe book. So it kind of depends on, if you're just like, wow, I want to know this girl's story, then
Yeah.
just hit up Amazon and, the second it's June 10th, it's going to get shipped out to you. So yeah, it's right around the corner. My third baby is getting into the world. It's a really big deal. It's a big deal to write a book.
It is. I know it's gonna, like I said, gonna be amazing. Because I've already told a whole bunch of friends about it because they're looking at it too, not for addictions, but for the reasons you're saying, and literally saying they want this. And I'm like, I got the perfect book. Like I'm like so excited.
I know. I cannot wait. The people that have had an advanced reader copy or at some of the very small local things I've been doing leading up to the book signings, because I have some hard copies that got shipped to me. So some people have been able to kind of get a sneak preview of the book and my story. And, in all the hustle and bustle of all the big dreams I have, right? All the attention I've been getting and all these things, it's easy to forget. And I don't ever want to, the intention, which is really to help one person
Yes.
every day if I can, right? So when these initial people who've read part of it or all of it are texting me or calling me or stopping me when they see me and they're like, oh my God, your book has made me cry. Your book is making me think completely differently. I underlined so many things. I'm like, this is why I wrote it. It's already happening. Like I have already, by being the cycle breaker, I have already won.
Yes.
And then everything else that happens is just the cherry on top.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. I'm so happy for you. And I'm going to be coming to your book signing. I'm planning on it. So yes. So I'm so happy for you. And what's your social media? So you told me your website. What's your Instagram and
Instagram and TikTok, actually, and YouTube.
Okay.
Yay for me. Consistent with the branding. I'm trying to get it all cleaned up. Dr. Samantha Harte. So at Dr. Samantha Harte, and Harte is Harte. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, everybody go check her out. Go get her book. Seriously, I'm already crying just by talking to you. So I know it's amazing because it just resonates so much with people. And this will just change your life into releasing and finally living free. Like, doesn't everybody want to feel freedom and love and just be authentically themselves without that shame, without that baggage, without the past, without all of the things that come into us subconsciously, and just letting go? I mean, that's amazing. That really is amazing. So love it. Well, I absolutely want to have you on again, especially after your book comes out, and we'll definitely talk some more. But I thank you. And everybody join me again for another vodcast coming out next week. And so much more exciting things happening at Loving Your Life, Be Authentically You. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Don't need you. Tell me what I can and can't do. I'm in charge of what I feel. It's just